does. Into the end zone. Stafford, who wants to go to the playoffs? Touchdown! Touchdown once again!
Where we came from last year to where we are now is a big moment for not only us, but the city.
I'm excited. I'm happy. The fan base waited a long time for this. I mean, I really can't put into words, how much it means to them, how much it means to me. Be able to go out there and lead this franchise and this team to opportunities like that.
I told Raheem after the game, I said, man, there's some things that Five does that you can't put on a card.
The Washington Commanders are headed to the postseason, and it took a 30-24 win in overtime over the Atlanta Falcons to get there. It's on Sportsmanlike, ESPN Radio and ESPNU. Courtney Cronin, Myron Medcalf sitting in for Evan Canty and Michelle at the start of another week. ESPN Radio presented by Progressive Insurance. You can tweet to us at Medcalf by ESPN. You can hit me up as well at Courtney R. Cronin. You can also join us on the Dr. Pepper call-in line throughout the next 2 hours. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. So another legacy drive from Jaden Daniels has Washington in a position maybe a year ahead of schedule. I think that's a fair conversation to have because a rookie quarterback comes into a team that had a lot of questions. New coaching staff, new front office, new players across the board, certainly an offensive line that had some question marks, yet none of those things seem to matter at this point right now because Washington has shown us if Jaden Daniels is your quarterback, chances are things are going to go well for you, at least getting to the playoffs. Now, on the other side of that is the Atlanta Falcons, a team that, as of right now, Myron, it's not looking great for the postseason, considering Tampa Bay is in the driver's seat right now. They've got New Orleans at home in Week 18. If they win that game, they win the division. They're playing in January. But can we please talk about what happened in the fourth quarter with Raheem Morris and the decision to not use that extra timeout that he admitted would have ended up helping them potentially win this game?
Yeah, even Thomas Brown, I think, was like, you know what? I wouldn't have done that. It was just, it's a mess, and it shows you to me how valid it is to have the right decision makers around you. I think Michael Penix Jr. might save a lot of jobs, but you got to be smarter in that situation if you're Raheem Morris.
All right, let's hear from Raheem Morris, head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. He said that the timeout could have helped the Falcons in the fourth quarter. He ends up not using it. You can't take those into Week 18. Here's the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons.
Probably could have. Thought we can get to the line of scrimmage with our operation, be a little bit faster there, get them there without going on the fast and our ball, try to save that timeout. In hindsight, could have been a good decision or a better decision to take that timeout, but I wanted to have the opportunity to move up there. So, you can always second-guess those things. You can always second-guess those motives. You can always go back and look at it and see if you can get it snapped a little bit quicker. But I really believe we can get our operation time a little bit faster there to be able to save that timeout, still be able to click off, potentially get the pass interference, have a couple more snaps there, save the timeouts, and be able to use them there to get that field goal a little bit closer.
So
What?
if you missed it,
What is he talking about? What that man said, motives and operations. What is he talking about, Courtney?
Do you like that excuse better than what Thomas Brown said the other day about how he just changed his mind?
That's
In the
better
Bears
than
game?
motives and operations. What thesaurus is that man in? What is he talking about? That's a mess.
Okay, so here's what happens. Final drive of regulation, Michael Penix Jr., who's been playing a really good game up until this point, he hits Darnell Mooney, 25-yard first down. So it gets to the Falcons' 44-yard line. There's about 34-ish seconds left. So Raheem Morris could have called a timeout after that first down catch with the score tied at this point. And the Falcons end up settling, like what Raheem Morris was talking about, getting a little bit closer. They don't get any more yards, so they have to settle for a 56-yard field goal attempt. It's Riley Patterson. He's in his second week with the team. You can't really fault the guy for the fact that, the kick with 2 seconds left comes up short. The game goes into overtime. Commanders win 30-24. They're headed to the playoffs. Falcons now kind of hang in the balance here. I actually appreciate what Raheem Morris said, because he came out and said, yes, it could have helped us had I called a timeout. You know why? Because I come from the land of the Chicago Bears, where there have been a lot of excuses about not using timeouts and not adhering to game management things that if you play Madden, you understand how to handle. I understand there was a lot of weird things there. So you said you always second guess those things. You can always second guess those motives. You can always go back and look at it and see if you can get the ball snapped a little bit quicker. So, of course, maybe that would have helped with the operation. I don't know if Riley Patterson felt rushed in that moment. The kick falls short, but like, what is up with these coaches and, like, the justification element here? It's not like Raheem Morris is getting fired by any stretch at the end of the season. They've had a good season, all things considered. They're on the cusp of the playoffs. Heck, something might break their way and make it happen. But the justification there is something I understand. I just don't know if I can get behind.
Yeah, I don't know if he can get behind it. I mean, that's why I was saying motives and operations and whatever he was taught, whatever TED Talk he gave when he was asked about. I guess I would just prefer to hear at some point a coach say, you know what, I messed up. You know what, he's got to put Michael Penix Jr. in a better spot. He has to understand he's got a kicker who's been with the team for a couple of weeks, and that is a critical moment. And I know he kind of explained that and alluded to that, but just say that. I think people would respect you a lot more if you just said, listen, that's a mistake on my part. I got to be better in that moment. And everybody moves on, right? So I think to me, some of these coaches, whether it's the Thomas Brown, pretending like you change your mind, whatever that means, because that didn't make sense, and Raheem Morris almost like over-explaining what was an obvious mistake, it doesn't really help either guy in those situations.
It's so funny to me when coaches say, like, I was hoping to save the timeout.
Yeah, like,
for when?
Yeah,
you can't take that with you into next week.
You gonna use it this weekend? Like, what do you mean? You use it like what? You use it on a random Wednesday? Like, what are you talking about? You know?
So Michael Penix Jr., like after he gets the first down catch to Darnell Mooney, he throws incomplete to Drake London, and then Mooney again. Patterson misses the field goal. His career long at that point was 53. And I don't know whether this is a conversation. I mean, they're outdoors. They're in Washington. If it would have been in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, if you would have thought any differently about it. But, like, can anybody be honest anymore in the NFL? I think that's the question that fans want to hear, because it just sounds like a not great justification when it's such an obvious situation. You help your rookie quarterback out. And this is a situation that we've dealt with here in Chicago. I cover the Chicago Bears for ESPN.com. Like, can your quarterback call a timeout there? Like, in Michael Penix's situation, I wouldn't expect that to happen. Obviously, he's looking towards the sideline. He just, like, in a game management situation like that, that's on the head coach. It's not a situation kind of like what Caleb Williams faced in, you remember the Detroit game?
Yeah.
How could you forget the Detroit game? That's a dumb question for me. But, like, you know, when it's all a flurry of things happening in the final moments and Caleb's trying to change the play at the line of scrimmage and they can't get the play off quickly enough, that should have been a situation maybe for a veteran quarterback where he calls timeout and the head coach not really helping him in that situation. This was another one where the head coach really could have helped his young quarterback and not put Michael Penix in a situation where, you know, he would have felt that would have been on him. Because in that one, you can't justify anything else other than that's the head coach needing to have a better feel for the game in that moment, that you want to get, if you're trying to win this thing in regulation and not have it go to overtime where they end up losing, because the second Washington got that ball, we knew they were winning the game. You weren't stopping Jane Daniels. The guy has thrown touchdown passes in the final 30 seconds of 5 different games this year. It's an NFL record. Guy's a rookie. Like, built different, it is an understatement for Jaden Daniels, but if you're trying to win the game in regulation, you have to have the right pulse for how close do we need to get, knowing for a fact that because he's playing Riley Patterson's playing for Younghoe Koo right now, who has an injury and he's on the bench. But, like, your judgment on that just cost your team a chance to lock up a playoff berth. Yeah. And now you might be looking back at this Week 17 game saying, yeah, it was my game management or lack thereof that put my team in a disadvantageous spot that now we're sitting home in January when we could have been playing.
Yeah, and if you're Raheem Morris, just say that. Just admit that instead of sounding like, you know, my 8th grade, when I was talking to my 8th grade science teacher when she said, where's your project? Like, that's how he sounded. You know what? Motives and operations in situations, like, what do you say? Just say you made a mistake. Like, I also feel like that is being a head coach in the NFL. Yes, it's being a leader in the locker room. Yes, it is making sure that you have the right people in the right positions to help the team reach its ceilings. But you're really defined by those moments, Courtney. What do you do in those split-second moments when you have to be the smartest guy on the sideline and you have to be able to make these big decisions without a lot of time, and you know it could either help your team win or it can cost your team a game? That's why you're an NFL head coach. And if you can't excel in those moments, then I'm not really sure how you're going to continue to be competitive in that position.
You know what trips me up about that is that these coaches, these NFL staffs have a whole ton of support staff, most of them who are up in the booth, there to tell you, call a timeout. Call a timeout! Like, it's not hard. Like, I don't understand why these things become so overcomplicated when you have an entire coaching staff plus a support staff watching the same thing that we're all watching. And I watched this game alone last night. I imagine if you were a Falcons fan or, anybody that was watching the game together, they're all screaming the same thing at the same time. And I don't know why we have to overcomplicate these things. It was an easy decision right then and there. You help your rookie quarterback who's in his second start of his NFL career and about to walk off a winner here. You help the kicker who hasn't been there more than a cup of coffee, put him in a better situation. And I appreciate that Raheem Morris met that thing head on and he didn't pull, a Matt Eberflus and give you a word salad. Although like motives and operation or whatever other buzzwords were interesting. But man, if this is what the Falcons look back on and say that's the reason, like that's the difference between winning and losing for us getting into the postseason, that's going to be, I think, a tough one for them to stomach as they head into January. All right, straight ahead. I asked you for your calls on the NFL MVP race. A lot of people are unhappy with me right now and my take on Joe Burrow. If you're unhappy, call in. We want that smoke here on Unsportsmanlike. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. That's coming up next on Sportsmanlike on ESPN Radio and ESPNU.
Georgia versus Notre Dame.
There's a different feel to the playoff.
Boise State versus Penn State.
There's an intensity that gets ratcheted up.
Oregon versus Ohio State.
The stakes get much higher.
Arizona State versus Texas. The College Football Playoff Quarterfinals. New Year's Eve and New Year's Day on ESPN Radio and on ESPN.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hi, I'm Dr. Peter Stahl, board-certified urologist and senior vice president of men's sexual health at HIMSS. In my 12 years of practice as a reproductive urologist, I've helped many guys with ED, and it has never been more convenient to treat than it is right now, thanks to HIMSS. It really wasn't easy before. You had to take time out of your day, come to a physical office, and see a specialist like me in person. Now, through HIMSS.com, you can get world-class sexual health care and a full range of treatment options for ED through a 100% online process. It starts with a free assessment from a medical provider licensed in your state who can determine if ED treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your medication is shipped to you for free. So don't wait. Join the hundreds of thousands of guys who've gotten help for their ED through HIMSS.
To start your free online visit and find ED treatment at up to 95% off brand name prices, go to hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit.
You're great, Tim. You're great to have on. We love what you do. You're very talented as a manager taking care of Gelferix and dedicated diesel, but I'm impressed how much energy you have for all that.
We're just honored to be able to wear the GFT logo and do that, and the people at Dedicated Diesel do a great job. Everybody needs to get over there and get those awesome, like new used mowers bought up and get out of there so we have room for some new ones. And talk to Andy there at 217-328-0562. He'll give you a great deal and get those things going.
And where's that located?
But that's at 1313 Triumph Drive in Urbana. We've got a wonderful crew, and at the end of the year here, I just want to thank all of our drivers, customers, and employees. We have the best guy to work for in Gail Frericks. You all and your families have a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and I'll talk to you next year.
Thank you, Tim. Tim Onstop, Pitmaster Extraordinaire, Gail Frericks Trucking, and Dedicated Diesel.
Crime is happening right now in our neighborhoods and across our communities, but you can help stop it with a donation to Champaign County Crime Stoppers. Your tax-deductible donation is an investment in a safer community for your family, your business, and the future we all deserve. Crime Stoppers has been fighting crime and assisting local law enforcement for nearly 4 decades, and we are funded through the generous support of those willing to stand up against crime. Join our ranks by visiting ChampaignCountyCrimeStoppers.org and donating today.
So when was the last time you saw a best deal guarantee?
You mean a promise that actually held up?
Right.
That some unknown online entity didn't want you to log in and download a code and then re-verify as you join some club?
Drives you nuts, I know.
And then once you purchase that set of steak knives...
Well, Dick Van Dyke Appliance World is a lot simpler. You find a verified great deal and they beat it. Just show them the deal you saw. A newspaper clipping or the online cart price will do, and then you're good.
At Dick Van Dyke Appliance World, it's one of those instances where you see a best deal guarantee and...
you get the best deal.
This is Dennis Reekin, chairman of Dick Van Dyke Appliance World. Our exclusive 10-year protection plan comes free with most appliance purchases. Whether it's a GE, Whirlpool, Frigidaire, Bosch, or any of our 30 brands, I guarantee we will beat any competitor's deal. Wow!
Dick Van Dyke Appliance World. When you buy from us, you get the whole store.
Hi, this is Troy Lands from Lands Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. With colder temperatures here, let's make sure your heating system is operating at its best. At Lands, you can join our comfort family and get exclusive savings and support to keep your heating system in tip-top shape this winter and all year round. Our plans offer tune-ups, discounts on repair, and even lifetime system enhancements. Plus, we back up our equipment with labor warranty when we install it. Find out more about our comfort family maintenance plans at landsinc.com. I'm Troy Lands, and you can count on my company because you can count on me.
What are we doing New Year's?
How about Houlihan's?
Make it a special night as you wrap up 2024 with a prefix menu with your 4-course meal. Choose from filet mignon or pan-seared red snapper, along with many other options. Make reservations now to have dinner between 5 and 10 p.m. with the last sitting at 9. Walk-ins are welcome at 1902 South 1st Street. Look over your menu options at stayattheeye.com/Houlihan's. For details, call 217-819-5005.
If you're looking over at ESPN Bet right now, it is Josh Allen minus 300. He's got the best odds, and then Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and Saquon Barkley. So there's 4 guys in the mix, all 4 of whom are very deserving. But I want to know about Joe Burrow and what you guys think about this, because I've been making the case all morning on my Twitter account at Courtney R. Cronin, on ESPN Radio, ESPNU, here and on Sportsmanlike. How do you not give the MVP award to somebody who is literally the definition of that player, of being the guy that you put the team on your back to carry into a place that your team would not be able to go without you? So that's like, I understand that they will probably never give the MVP to a player from a wild card team, but if there's anybody who's deserving of it that isn't a front runner as we currently see it, and yes, he has the 3rd best odds at ESPN Bet at plus 1,600, but he's not being talked about, Myron, in the same way as Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, and this would be a rare case for Josh Allen to win it over players who clearly have bigger numbers than he does. Mm-hmm. I mean, Josh Allen's been very efficient, but the numbers that Lamar Jackson's put up, and Joe Burrow, and even Saquon Barkley, they're much better in terms of just sheer impact and what we've seen from Josh Allen, who has definitely been efficient.
All right, 888-SAY-ESPN. Dr. Pepper call-in line is open. Kicking things off with Leaf in Georgia. Leaf, you're on ESPN Radio. Where do you fall on this take? Is it Joe Burrow's award or is it somebody else's?
It's Saquon Barkley, hands down. You look at what Eric Dickerson did. In 1984, his lead quarterback threw like 2,000 yards. So it was mainly a run game anyway. Now this league is more pass friendly.
Hey, Leaf, we appreciate the call, and I think that, Myron, you and I have been talking about this throughout the morning. 2,000 yards alone, 9th running back to ever do that. That's in rare territory. If he gets the all-time record, which, of course, we don't know if Nick Sirianni is going to let him play or let any of the starters play. I tend to think there would be some politicking internally, whether it's Saquon Barkley, whether it's his offensive line, to get him that number. Let's say he does. Let's say that he surpasses Eric Dickerson's record that was set in 1984. That's 40 years ago.
Wow.
How is that not the MVP at that point? I know it's a personal statistical achievement, but how many times have we said the same thing about Patrick Mahomes throwing for 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns, whatever those things were? Those are if you're going to have that energy about quarterbacks and the statistical thresholds that they reach, I think you have to do it for a running back too.
Yeah, I mean, what do we have? 3 MVPs, I think, since 05 who were running backs. I think it was LaDainian Tomlinson, Sean Alexander, I think 05, 06, and then 2012 is Adrian Peterson, right? So there's been this huge gap. But I think Saquon Barkley has to be in that conversation. It'll be interesting to see what happens if he breaks the record. And then imagine looking back 20 years from now and going, wait a minute. He finished 4th potentially, and he set the all-time record. But I think that's how good this race is. I mean, this could be an historic race if a guy like that doesn't end up getting a shot at the MVP, because I don't know how he overtakes quarterbacks in a quarterback era when they typically get those honors.
Justin in North Carolina, you're on Unsportsmanlike. Good morning. Where do you fall on the MVP race?
Here's my concern. I don't hear anybody talking about Baker Mayfield. And if you look at the numbers, he's only, I think, 200 yards away from Burrow, and I think he's thrown 40 touchdowns, and Burrow's done 42. So, I mean, I know Baker Mayfield's not going to win the MVP, but he should be in the talks of it.
Hey, Justin, we appreciate the call. I mean, it's Sam Darnold. That's the same conversation there, too. Like, are the Minnesota Vikings, like a team, and I'll get to Baker here in a minute, a team that lost its quarterback in the preseason to an ACL injury, and they're out. Like, the reason they signed Sam Darnold was to be someone who could take J.J. McCarthy along, lead him into a point where he's finally ready to start. They could have had a seamless changing of the guard, but then he's relied upon to be your starting quarterback for the season. And not only has he done really well, he's got your team in line for the number 1 overall seed in the NFC. If that's not worthy of MVP, and yes, I know he's throwing to Justin Jefferson, to TJ Hawkinson, to Jordan Addison, so on and so forth, but it's the performance-based metrics that we look at about what did you do for your team? What did your presence do? Did your presence take a team over the top? You can have that conversation about a lot of different players, Sam Darnold being one of them, but to Justin's point, look at what Baker Mayfield's done for Tampa Bay this year, especially these last couple weeks where if they win next week, they beat the New Orleans Saints after the beatdown that they put on the Carolina Panthers yesterday, then they're in the playoffs. And it's because, in large part, of what Baker Mayfield has done in 2024.
And Baker Mayfield has done it with injuries to his top receivers and targets, right? I mean, he's had to weather a lot of storms.
Chris Godwin's been gone since that Monday night game. Mike Evans has had to shoulder such a heavy load. They've had injuries in and out on defense. Like, why don't we consider those things? I feel like here's my issue with the MVP award. It's a quarterback award. We know that, which is unfortunate, and that's why I hope Saquon Barkley does get to play, because that's really going to give voters something to think about. If he goes in Week 18, he gets 101 yards, that opens up a completely different can of worms. But it always feels like it can't be a player on a wild card team, and it can't be somebody who is on a team that doesn't have double-digit, wins, upper echelon of like 12, 13, or 14. I don't think that's fair, because, yes, team dominance does matter, but there are a lot of players who are doing it on teams that might not be in the elite category, but like the really, really good to great. That's where I'd put someone like Baker Mayfield right now.
No, he definitely has to be in the conversation. I think what's interesting is we're talking about all of these players who have put up performances that deserve MVP credibility. Sam Darnold, 35 touchdowns, 4,000 yards. Baker Mayfield, Saquon, Lamar, obviously, and Joe Burrow. We're not saying the same thing about Josh Allen's performance. It's almost like the conversation is, it's just Josh Allen's time. And the question is that valid to make him the MVP this season?
Good point. I'm glad you brought this up, because I do think that there is something to be said about voter fatigue. Lamar Jackson's won this thing unanimously in 2019. He won it last year, too. I know that this is a regular season award. And there's 50 voters here. This isn't the Heisman. This isn't other MVP races. Like, it's a very select, elite group of people who get to choose this, Tom Brady included. But are there people who look at the disappointment factor that Lamar Jackson has frankly been a part of, that he doesn't perform as well as he needs to get his team to a Super Bowl in the postseason? Now, I'd hope that most people wouldn't take a look at that and factor that into the criteria, because that's not fair. Like, when you're thinking that this is a regular season award, versus what you do in the playoffs, which is a completely different season. But I do think that the voter fatigue element here of wanting to see somebody else win this thing. Did we not just have this same conversation 2 years ago with Joel Embiid when it was very clear that was probably Nikola Jokic's third MVP that he should have been winning, Myron?
Yeah. No, I think it's a real thing for voters when it comes to Lamar Jackson in terms of how they see it. It feels like if not now, then when for Josh Allen. I think that'll affect a lot of people and how they're swayed.
All right, Mike in Chicago. What's up, Mike? Do you have Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow? Who's your front runner for the MVP?
It's Josh Allen by far, because like it was said earlier, he is doing so much more with so much less. I get the Joe Burrow. If he could run like a Josh Allen or a Lamar Jackson, he's the greatest quarterback to play the game by far. I'm not going to take that away from him. But he's also throwing to a Jamar Chase. He's throwing to T. Higgins. And with a team with zero defense, you know it's going to be pass, 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 pass. His numbers are going to be excellent in that sense. And I don't get the whole Saquon Barkley thing, because then couldn't we have also said Christian McCaffrey over Lamar Jackson before? But that was really not even a conversation.
You absolutely
That was never a conversation, though.
It was a conversation.
It was a combo.
I know that he finished second in MVP voting last year, and then Dak was in the mix too, but it absolutely was a conversation. And he goes on to win Offensive Player of the Year in 2023. And I think, not saying that Christian McCaffrey walked so Saquon Barkley could run, but to me, the resurgence of the running back as a legitimate threat for these awards was because of what we saw from Christian McCaffrey last year.
Yes, he definitely opened that door and set things up nicely for Saquon.
And, of course, to your point, Mike, it was a great call. Doing more with less, that was what Dan Orlovsky, ESPN NFL analyst who was on with us earlier, that's what he's pointed out has been the mantra for the Josh Allen MVP campaign. He doesn't have a 1,000-yard receiver on his team right now. Khalil Shakir's the leading candidate there at 821 yards. There's Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid, and then of course, with the run game, they rely on it heavily. He's a huge part of it. James Cook is a huge part of it. It does feel like Josh Allen is the one who ignites all of that. If he wins, I don't think it's just because he's doing more with less, though. I think it's because a lot of people want to see someone different get the award. And, as much as it is a regular season award, I do think that there is that factor that some people think about, well, who's the guy that's actually going to win this award and then do something about it in the postseason? It's a good conversation to have. We will continue to have it on this show as we talk about excellence. And when we talk about things that are excellent, we usually aren't talking about the New York Giants. I am so sorry, Giants fans. If you're waking up this Monday morning, you're probably not feeling very good about where your team's chances are for the number one overall pick. I would say congrats on the win, but I know you're not feeling that same way. We dive into that next here on Unsportsmanlike, ESPN Radio and ESPNU.
ESPN Radio, home of the World Series.
The Dodgers are World Series champions.
The NBA Finals.
The Celtics, the 2024 NBA champions.
And the College Football National Championship.
Michigan has won the College Football National Championship.
This is ESPN Radio.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential. But finding those people can be a major hassle, unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. With ZipRecruiter, one click sends your job to hundreds of top job sites. But more than that, ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies the candidates with the skills you need, sends you a list of great matches to review, then actively invites them to apply for your job. And the results speak for themselves. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's right, the first day. Now you can focus on your business and let ZipRecruiter do the work finding the best people for you. See for yourself. Experience the ease, efficiency, and power of ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Get the roof your home deserves by Roof Doctors, your residential roofing specialist that has always offered the best warranties in the industry, like our non-prorated 50-year warranty. Our customers love that we are family-owned and locally operated. We make our customer needs our top priority. With over 30 years experience and the best customer service, give Roof Doctors a call today for your free estimate at 328-7529. In your community and for your community, Roof Doctors.
Are you tired of shivering in the winter? Look no further than your local heroes at ABC Heating and Air Conditioning. Hi, this is Gina inviting you to give us a call at 217-352-5400 to book your appointment to make sure your furnaces run safely and efficiently this winter. We've been proudly locally owned and operated and have been serving our community for over 50 years. ABC, always be comfortable. Call me 217-352-5400 to book your appointment today or go to abcheatingandac.com.
You're great, Tim. You're great to have on. We love what you do. You're very talented as a manager taking care of Gelfrix and dedicated diesel, but I'm impressed how much energy you have for all that.
We're just honored to be able to wear the GFT logo and do that, and the people at Dedicated Diesel do a great job. Everybody needs to get over there and get those awesome, like new used mowers bought up and get out of there so we have room for some new ones. And talk to Andy there at 217-328-0562. He'll give you a great deal and get those things going.
And where's that located?
But that's at 1313 Triumph Drive in Urbana. We've got a wonderful crew, and at the end of the year here, I just want to thank all of our drivers, customers, and employees. We have the best guy to work for in Gelfrix. You all and your families have a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and I'll talk to you next year.
Thank you, Tim. Tim Onstop, Pitmaster Extraordinaire, Gelfrix Trucking, and Dedicated Diesel. In a good action movie, the impossible is overcome before the happy ending. The action that started in The Christmas Story continues today. All year long, church people work through Empty Tomb to help local neighbors face situations that can seem impossible. Clothes for a job interview, a bed for a child, food to eat when work hours are cut, 1 month's rent before the first paycheck, a tank of gas to look for work, a medical need not covered by insurance. Empty Tomb connects church people with local neighbors in need. And through the research and mission match, Empty Tomb also helps church people nationally recognize their potential to help others in Jesus' name. I encourage you to include Empty Tomb in your year-end giving. You can make your check out to Empty Tomb Inc. or give online at emptytomb.org. Your gifts in December will continue the action that began with The Christmas Story and continues throughout the new year. And Merry Christmas.
I've got to clean out this garage. Let's see. What's the cheapest and easiest dumpster service in our area?
Here's what I found. The doggy bag.
Think she's broken. I'm not looking for takeout. Siri, try again.
The doggy bag from Bulldog Disposal in Mahomet.
Doggy bag? What's that?
If you got junk that needs to go, but you don't want the hassle of having an enormous dumpster delivered, grab a doggy bag, keep it as long as you need. They'll come take it away. For more information, just visit bulldoggybag.com.
That's bulldoggybag.com.
Habitat for Humanity of Champaign County has been enjoying the 12 days of Christmas with exclusive sales, fun-filled activities, and festive surprises for the whole family. Each day will bring a new way to celebrate the season. Champaign County Restore at 1914 Glen Park Drive in Champaign will have gift wrapping on Thursday, December 19th through Saturday, December 21st. Bring your gifts to get wrapped with labels ready to put on them in exchange for a donation. If you'd like to volunteer to wrap, send a note to outreach@cuhabitat.org.
Real people.
Evan, Kenzie, and Michelle are unsportsmanlike.
To the 10 to the 5, touchdown Malik Neighbors, 31 yards.
Good to get a win at home. Our guys played well. That's how the offense needs to perform.
You don't get to pick where you go with the draft being involved. You understand what they're saying. Be able to come out and win this one. That's the goal every single week.
You know, usually when a team wins a game, whatever the sport is, it's a good thing. If you're a New York Giants fan, you're waking up on this Monday morning probably feeling like you got kicked in the teeth, knowing that your chances of your team having the number 1 overall pick in 2025, whether it's Shedeur Sanders, whether it's Cam Ward, goes from a 61% chance to a 2% chance after the 45-33 win over the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday. You heard the highlights there, courtesy of WFAN. A huge day for Malik Neighbors, a huge day for Drew Lock, totaling 5 touchdowns, 4 through the air, 1 on the ground. And by the time this is all said and done, after the Colts were threatening at the beginning of the fourth quarter, Myron, to win that game, the Giants end up pulling away. And I'm sure the players in the locker room and the coaching staff feel great about it. But fans in that front office, assuming they're there next year, not so much.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was right there, right, to go out and get a number 1 pick and probably Shedeur Sanders, right? And I think what a story that could have been, Shedeur in New York City. But if you're Brian Daboll, like, I get it. You know what I mean? You don't know if you're part of this team's future or not, and the job is to win, you know? So I always think it's interesting when we go, well, the coach and the team should participate in us tanking to get this top pick. And it's like, how many of those guys know that they'll be back with this organization next year? I think they're focused on the guys in the locker room trying to win a game. I think that's what you saw yesterday in that Giants victory. But, yeah, as a fan, it would not feel good to know that you've lost your shot at number 1.
And this is something we talk about every single year when teams are out of playoff contention early. And the Giants were eliminated in like week 10, if memory serves. So it's been a minute where these games have effectively not mattered for the now, but they do matter for the, the future. You're never going to find a coaching staff or players who say, yeah, let's focus on tanking so we can get the number 1 overall pick or so we can get a top 5 draft pick. Mm-hmm. And I want you to hear what Drew Lock had to say. He was asked about this, about how fans feel for the team or feel regarding the team, whether they should be tanking. This is what a true player's perspective is on that very topic. Take a listen.
I'd say that's just a part of the game. When you got the draft involved, it's not college. You don't get to pick where you go with the draft being involved. And the playoffs out of contention, you understand what they're saying. But at the same time, it's nice to say we're going to go work, we're going to keep doing this, we're going to keep pushing. It's not, season's not over, we got 2 games left to be able to come out and win this one. That's the goal every single week, come out and win and work as hard as you can to do it.
If there's anybody who knows what the importance is of putting good film out there, it's a backup quarterback who very well may not be back with the New York Giants next year. I would imagine there's going to be a massive roster turnover because they have to go find a starting quarterback in the first place. But fans can't be upset with the way that this coaching staff and these players put together their Week 17 execution. They can be upset. If you want to be upset with anybody, be upset with Joe Shane. Be upset with this front office. Be upset with the ineptitude of ownership in New York to allow these things to happen. So then you're not in a situation where you end up going into Week 17, have their best performance of the season coming at the worst possible time at home and winning a game that you shouldn't. But you're never going to find anybody who is auditioning for their own careers, trying to throw something for another team, another set of coaches, another front office to then benefit them. Like we saw this a couple years ago, which I actually think was hilarious because the one example of this that hits kind of close to me. Do you remember in 2022 going into the final moments of Week 18 when the Indianapolis Colts are hosting the Houston Texans? At the time, Lovie Smith was the coach of the Houston Texans. Houston was in line. They were 2-14 at the time. They were in line for the number 1 overall pick. Davis Mills, to I believe it was Jordan Thomas, throws the touchdown. They win that game. The number 1 pick at the very last minute changes hands from Houston to the Chicago Bears. Within hours, Lovie Smith is fired, which he would have been anyways. But those are the sorts of things that I don't think as a coach you can ever put yourself in a situation to be thinking about something other than yourself and other than your future.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Daboll, I think, basically said, good luck, y'all. You know what I mean? Because he may not be here.
No, that's definitely not guaranteed. And I know I made the comment about the front office. We think they should be there. But despite what John Mara said, I do not believe at all that there might not be changes in this offseason for all parties involved.
Yeah, and if that's the case, again, your responsibility is what's in front of you to try to win games. And to your point, we talk about tanking in the NFL like it's tanking in the NBA, and they're so different. In the NBA, it's not the Spurs with a young core saying, hey, we can get Wemby. That's not how it works. You're not building like that in the NFL. To your point, the entire roster could be different. no one in that locker room has an obligation or responsibility to the Giants and what they want to do in the NFL draft. So, yeah, you do what you're supposed to do. You go out and win. What I think really hurt the Giants is that hard knocks and how they were talking all that talk before the season about what they were going to do. They don't need Saquon, not really that interested in Daniel Jones, should probably move on. There was an arrogance in that front office that I think is even more disappointing now when you see how things have ended up. So, to your point, the front office is where I would have all of my anger if I were a Giants fan.
All right, I want to silver lining this here for a minute because right now the New England Patriots have a 79% chance to get the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
Let's say that the Giants, or maybe they're at number 2. I actually don't know the complete tiebreaker scenario because the Titans have 3 wins. Carolina has 4. The Bears have 4. Like, there are other teams that will be further down the draft order. But you watched the Alamo Bowl the other day.
Yeah.
Did Shedeur Sanders do anything that made you think, God, I hope that this is a can't miss product. I hope that if I'm a Giants fan, that's my quarterback. It might actually end up working out kind of like that Houston Texans scenario where the guy who, at least right now at the end of December, who's being projected for the number 1 overall pick, maybe the number 2 overall pick is a better spot to be in if that ends up being Cam Ward from Miami.
Yeah, no, it potentially could go that way. I mean, it was weird. So did the response of that game. Like, you would have thought Colorado won or something like that. Like, no, they got punched in the mouth by BYU was what really happened. So I don't think this is a great draft at all when it comes to quarterback. Like, I don't know that there is an elite quarterback in this draft. Someone that we'll be talking about 3 to 5 years from now as potentially a top 10 guy. Shedeur hasn't done that for me. Has he had some big moments? Sure. Do you think about a guy, well, what happens when you put more talent around him? Yeah. But you're going to go to a bad team as a top pick in this league, and you're going to have to play really well to even get a chance to grow. So, number 1 doesn't feel like number 1 when Manning was there or some of those sort of guarantees were there at that spot. This draft feels a lot more fluid.
Yeah, it's top heavy with quarterbacks. I mean, at least there's 2 right now that are the surefire, top 5 picks. But other than that, Jalen Milroe, some of the other quarterbacks, Dylan Gabriel, the other, it's not last year's draft. Carson Beck, some of these names are not making you salivate over your team needing to get them. But maybe this will work out in the Giants' favor. Their season high 45 points comes at a pretty inopportune time as far as the future. But in the immediacy, you can't blame the coaches and players for doing their jobs because that is literally what they are paid to do. And sorry, I guess it resulted in a win. Okay, team I'm not saying sorry to is the Minnesota Vikings. They are in line for the number 1 overall seed. Everything coming down to the wire in Week 18 when they play in Detroit. And you cannot tell me that Sam Darnold is not on this roster in 2025. We're going to talk about that coming up next here on Unsportsmanlike. But first, I have this from Vivid Seats. Vivid Seats is your ultimate football destination for all of the gridiron action with a game-changing rewards program and an unbeatable selection of tickets. They make it easy for every fan to watch their favorite teams and players in action. See every tackle, toe drag catch, and touchdown live and in person from your favorite seat. Plus, every ticket is backed by a 100% buyer guarantee, giving you peace of mind with every purchase. Don't miss out. Visit vividseats.com or download the app today. Vivid Seats, the official ticketing partner of ESPN.
It's bowl season on ESPN Radio. 25 bowl games, including the college football playoff and national championship game.
The magic continues. The electricity, the atmosphere.
Bowl season continues today with the TransPerfect Music City Bowl. Coverage begins at 2 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN.
Hey, Illini fans, Steve from Good Vibes here with Citrus Bowl-bound linebacker and special teams player Kenenna Odeluga.
You know, I can't wait to party on New Year's Eve, and my idea of a party involves tackles.
Unfortunately, most of us can't join you in Orlando, but we'll be watching and eating Cheez-Its and drinking orange juice.
Yeah, you probably have one of those 98-inch Sonys at home.
Well, no, KO, but I do have 3 Sony OLEDs because the picture and sound are so good, I can pick out number 39 every time you take the field.
So not even an 85-inch? Football is best enjoyed extra large.
Well, my 17.7-inch is just right for my room, but there are deals on all the extra large screens. This is nothing you want to fumble on or pass up.
And Good Vibes delivers free? That's like the extra point.
Get the Good Vibes for that extra large Sony on sale in time to see KO knock down a few Gamecocks.
ILO.
I.
If you're in the market for a new car battery, you could go to one of those big box stores, except there's no guarantee you'll be served by an actual car expert.
Clean up in aisle 3.
You could pick a battery off the shelf, except it might be close to expiring. Or you could just come into Interstate. Don't make a big box store blunder. With competitive prices and a more personal, reliable approach, Interstate Batteries is the clear-cut choice if you want to guarantee yourself a new and trustworthy car battery. They're open and ready to serve you at 2504 North Mattis Avenue in Champaign.
Illinois basketball star Merez Johnson on needing some help from Sarah Champagne and Ben Quattrone.
I was going back home for a weekend, and I was going to be downtown. I text Ben, can I get a different car, go to Chicago? And I got something small, a nice Buick, something that was nice. I got my car back when I came. It was quick. Ben and Sarah Champagne took care of me.
And Sarah Champagne would do that for you, too. Learn more at sarahchampagne.com. That's SERRA champagne.com. Switching is easy. We do it all the time. We switch on the lights. We switch TV channels. Some of us switch partners while square dancing. Well, that's a stretch. But what's not a stretch is how you can switch and save with State Farm. In fact, State Farm agent Kurt Lenschow right here in Champaign-Urbana can switch you over so you can start saving today. Kurt and his team are ready to welcome you to the State Farm neighborhood. It's easy to switch and save. Just give them a call when you want the real deal. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
At Pards in Urbana, the boots just keep on coming. They're known for their huge collection of men's cowboy boots, women's cowgirl boots, kids' boots, and even shoes. If you're searching for top footwear brands, look no further than Pards. They carry a wide variety, including Ariat, Dan Post, Smoky Mountain, Roper, Double H, and more. And if socks or accessories are what you need, they've got all your high-quality essentials. Since 1968, Pards has been serving their customers with high-quality merchandise. And if you haven't been to Pards in a while, a lot has changed. Go check them out just off University Avenue in Urbana.
Evan, Canty, and Michelle are unsportsmanlike.
The Minnesota Vikings are going to win 9 consecutive games for the first time since 1973. Play action, and Sam throws to the right, throws to Addison, caught, touchdown! Jordan Addison with his 9th receiving touchdown this year.
Everything about it feels like we're operating as one. For us, it's the same mindset.
The 14-win Minnesota Vikings are currently in possession of the NFC's #1 seed. Obviously, that could change if Detroit ends up winning in Week 18. They have to take care of business tonight, of course, too, with the San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football. But everything for all the marbles comes down to the final game of the season. We find out last night that is the Sunday night game in Week 18. The Vikings heading to Detroit to figure out how this NFC playoff picture is going to shake out. It's Unsportsmanlike on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Courtney Cronin, Myron Metcalf, as always, presented by Progressive Insurance. You heard the highlights there from Paul Allen of KFAN in Minneapolis. Myron, that's where you live. You're in the Twin Cities. What is the feeling around this Vikings team? And obviously, I covered them at a time that wasn't like this. I covered the NFC Championship year, the last time they were there in 17, and then the slow decline after that. They get back to the playoffs one other time during the 2019 season, and then they hit reboot. It's a completely different era up there now, and the fact that Sam Darnold, not J.J. McCarthy, is the quarterback leading them there, I know there's a lot of excitement and also a lot of uncertainty about how this team handles the quarterback situation beyond this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think people have to understand when J.J. McCarthy got hurt. Like, he got hurt just as he was showing a lot of flashes, as this is going to be the guy. Maybe not in year 2, maybe in year 1. Like, there was a lot of buzz about Sam Darnold being a bridge quarterback. Maybe he plays the first 8, 9, 10 games, and then McCarthy's ready to go. Then he suffers that season-ending injury. And there was a cloud, I think, over the fan base because it's Sam Darnold. Think about what we thought of Sam Darnold before this season. This guy was really an afterthought. He was a backup's backup. He wasn't someone that you would trust to lead you anywhere. Yeah. And now here we are in a spot where he's putting up MVP level numbers, I think, in a regular season without, Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and all these other guys. He's leading this team to maybe unprecedented moments, getting the number 1 seed if he wins against Detroit. And I think people are going, J.J. McCarthy could be great, but you know how good Sam Darnold is in this system right now. And I just don't see a world after yesterday, Courtney, where they don't sign him, where they don't lock him up as at least the quarterback of the near future for this organization.
377 yards yesterday. That's a career high for Sam Darnold on a 27-25 win over the Minnesota Vikings. And some of the throws, like after the 2-minute warning last night, and they're trusting Sam Darnold. They are letting him throw the ball there. They're not just in a situation where they're like, let's get in a field goal range and walk this thing off. They're icing the game with their quarterback and allowing him to do that. That's trust. And that shows you the faith that Kevin O'Connell has in this quarterback. I don't think that you're too quick to pivot off of that just because you have somebody that might be ready, might be physically healthy enough to play in J.J. McCarthy. Now, there's this idea about the excess of riches when it comes to having too much talent or too many players at one position. We often see this with receiver rooms. We'll say, oh, this receiver room is the most loaded in such and such division. This receiver room, when you've got 3 guys who could be 1,000-yard receivers. When you have a quarterback room that is often loaded, usually that's cause for concern. Usually that's cause for, this is going to cause some drama. We need to get one of these guys out of here so the other guy doesn't feel threatened or have to look over his shoulder. There might be somebody, coming for his job eventually. I don't think the Vikings can afford to view it that way because when they signed Kirk Cousins in 2018, they signed him with the premise of letting Sam Bradford, Case Keenum, and Teddy Bridgewater all go. They thought they needed an upgrade that was going to get them back to the NFC Championship and take them over the top. That obviously didn't pan out. Was Kirk Cousins good? Yes. Was he great? No. Because you were never able to achieve the ultimate goal. With someone like Sam Darnold and the position that they're in, they didn't have the 1 seed the last time that as far as they got in 2017. They were not the 1 seed that year. So there's ways to do this that, frankly, could prevent a lot of other quarterback needy teams from cashing in on Sam Darnold's free agency, and that's via the franchise tag. So if we think that Sam Darnold in his resurgence year is about to earn $50 million, somewhere in that range, franchising him for about $40 million, while expensive in the short term, buys you time to make something happen, to either work out a long-term deal, to tag him and then trade him, which I don't think that they would obviously do. But I can't see the Vikings looking past this season saying, now we're good. Like, we're going to let him walk in free agency. Like, we're ready to turn the reins over to J.J. McCarthy, because there's no guarantee, having never seen J.J. McCarthy in a regular season NFL game, that it's going to come on as quickly as it did with Darnold and be as sustainable as it's been with Darnold in one season with him in Kevin O'Connell as his play caller.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of positives with J.J. McCarthy. He's 21. Right. I mean, so this is a guy who is, I think, one of the youngest players in the draft. There's a lot of room for him to grow. But if you're Kevin O'Connell, you look at Sam Darnold right now and you say, listen, we can win a Super Bowl in the next couple of years. I can see them franchise tagging him and then working out something long term. Like, remember, there aren't that many players who have played on a franchise tag who are quarterbacks in the last decade, right? It was Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott. I mean, Lamar Jackson got hit with it. Then they worked out a deal. So it's a rare thing for quarterbacks in the NFL right now to play on a franchise tag. I think you take Sam Darnold and say, let's come up with a reasonable number. You're our guy. And then you trade, I think, J.J. McCarthy. I think J.J. McCarthy in that scenario deserves a fresh start, deserves an opportunity to show what he can do with another organization. And I know they drafted him to be the guy, but if you're going to say Sam Darnold is the guy, then I think you give J.J. McCarthy that opportunity elsewhere. And
you bring up a good point there, because it's not like Sam Darnold is a 31-year-old quarterback who just had a really good resurgence year, kind of like a Geno Smith situation. I don't know what Geno's exact age was during the comeback player of the year in Seattle, but he's 27 years old. That's when quarterbacks, for all intents and purposes, start to hit their stride if they're going to be playing at this level. So you wouldn't be sacrificing a long-term plan in J.J. McCarthy for somebody who might only give you 1 or 2 more years of that play that Sam Darnold's shown. 4,000 yards this year, 35 passing touchdowns. Those are career highs for him, and frankly, it's kind of unheard of when you think about somebody in 1 year turning his career around that much. Let's hear from the quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings on what it means to hit that threshold.
It means we're, doing our job on offense. That's really all it means to me. But just going to continue to strive to improve every single day. And I feel like that's what we've been doing. That's the reason I feel like we've been executing, and we're just going to continue to do that.
His teammates love him. You saw the video in the locker room afterwards. He had 2 different post-game interviews, one of which was with Tom Brady because he got the LFG Player of the Week. And I thought, for once that was Sam Darnold showing a little bit of cheekiness when he's like, what's LFG stand for? We all know he knows what it means, but it was cool to watch him open up just even a little bit in that moment because he should be proud of himself. He's done a lot this year to put himself and his team in position for very big goals that they hope to attain over the next 2 months. But as of right now, they are the number 1 seed in the NFC. They are rooting hard against the Lions tonight because of that tiebreaker scenario. And then, of course, next week they are in Detroit to close out the season on Sunday Night Football. All right, straight ahead here on Unsportsmanlike. How far can the presumptive Offensive Rookie of the Year take the Commanders in the playoffs? We discuss next. Courtney Cronin, Myron Metcalf, here with you on Unsportsmanlike, ESPN Radio and ESPNU.
Texting enrolls you in a recurring automated marketing text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
The team's looking good this season.
I think so. Man, I miss playing football. Being young with unlimited energy to burn. Ever since I turned 40, I just can't find that fire I used to have.
Think it could be lower testosterone?
What do you mean?
All guys lose their edge when they turn 40. The body has less testosterone. That's why I take Nugenix Total T.
I've heard about Nugenix. That really works?
Since I started taking Nugenix, I'm lifting like when we played for Coach Carter. I feel more energized at work. It's even spiced up things between me and the missus.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try?
Yep, send a text. It's that easy.
Text STAY to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T. It's the #1 selling testosterone-boosting brand at GNC and Walmart. Do it now, and they'll also send you a bottle of Nugenix Thermo X, their newest, most powerful fat burner ever, absolutely free. Text STAY to 42424. That's STAY to 42424. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Since 1955, the University of Illinois Police Training Institute has been dedicated to making police officers active, respected members of their community. Using the adult learning model, PTI's curriculum focuses on understanding diverse communities and treating everyone with dignity and respect, going beyond state standards, specializing in Brill Lead training, juvenile officer certification, and LGBTQ ally training. Discover more on Facebook and Instagram or visit pti.illinois.edu.
It's great when hard work and experience are recognized. Hi, this is Ryan Heiser, President and CEO of Fisher National Bank. I am thrilled to share that Fisher National has been ranked 7th in the nation as a top lender in mortgage loans among banks with asset size of $300 million to $1 billion by our National Banking Association. This recognition is a testament to our lending team's dedication and expertise. After all, better banking experiences start with local people and local decision making. If you're in the market for a new home or considering refinancing your existing home, let our team at Fisher National Bank earn your business and trust. We offer competitive rates with low closing costs, and we locally service almost all of our loans. Come see us with all your home mortgage needs and experience the top-notch service that has earned us national recognition. Learn more at fishernational.com or stop by one of our branches today.
Fisher National Bank, exceptional communities, exceptional people. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Got a plumbing, heating, cooling, electrical, or sewer problem? Look no further than Fred's Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning, and Electric. Locally owned and trusted, Fred's team of professionals is ready to tackle projects both big and small. Why waste time and money on complicated DIY fixes? Fred's experienced team will get the job done right, saving you time, stress, and cash. And when it comes to sewer problems, make sure you call Fred's for a second opinion you can trust. At Fred's, they do it all. No project too big, no project too small. They do insulation, repairs, replacement, and maintenance, and they now offer service agreements. For reliable service, professional expertise, and solutions that work, call Fred's Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning, and Electric today. 217-586-3863 or go to fredscu.com. You can always trust Fred's.
Springfield Avenue is now open. Yes, Springfield Avenue is now open. So from Kenwood to Duncan, you can visit El Toro easily, and it's open. Your favorite Mexican restaurant is open once again. After 4 months of construction, come and see the good people at El Toro on West Springfield. They've got your favorite Mexican dish, and they're open 7 days a week. Springfield Avenue is open. Enjoy El Toro Restaurant right on Springfield near Kaufman Lake, and enjoy your favorite Mexican restaurant. El Toro on West Springfield in Champaign.
So when was the last time you saw a best deal guarantee?
You mean a promise that actually held up?
Right.
That some unknown online entity didn't want you to log in and download a code and then re-verify as you join some club.
Drives you nuts, I know.
And then once you purchase that set of steak knives...
Well, Dick Van Dyke Appliance World is a lot simpler. You find a verified great deal and they beat it. Just show them the deal you saw. A newspaper clipping or the online cart price will do, and then you're good.
At Dick Van Dyke Appliance World, it's one of those instances where you see a best deal guarantee and...
you get the best deal.
This is Dennis Reekin, chairman of Dick Van Dyke Appliance World. Our exclusive 10-year protection plan comes free with most appliance purchases. Whether it's a GE, Whirlpool, Frigidaire, Bosch, or any of our 30 brands, I guarantee we will beat any competitor's deal. Wow!
SPNU, the show, as always, presented by Progressive Insurance. Like, what more can I say about Jaden Daniels and what he's done in his rookie season? Last night, it comes down to an overtime performance where when Washington gets the ball, it's probably game over at this point. He's thrown 3 touchdowns. There were 2 up until that point. He had thrown an interception. But what Jaden Daniels has shown us is that mistakes do not define him in games. Usually they're not backbreaking or backbreaking enough to where he can't overcome that. But it's so impressive to watch where this Washington team, Myron, has gone in year one. Like, usually these things, when you get a young quarterback into a team that's drafting as high as the Commanders, it usually takes a while to get that team into the win column, and into the win column enough that they're a playoff team. Right now, the Commanders would be playing wild card weekend in January. You get the quarterback right, and everything else seems to fall in place. We saw this with C.J. Stroud last year. We're seeing it with Jaden Daniels. Heck, we're even seeing it with Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos. It really is remarkable considering where this team was even 2 or 3 years ago to where they are now, simply because of the guy that they drafted number 2 overall.
Yeah, I mean, and I think for me with Washington, it's also proof of what happens when you kind of purify the entire organization from the top down. New ownership, I think that's a factor in everything that's happened with the decisions that the front office has made. New coaching staff. You bring in Cliff Kingsbury, who has been the right guy, I think, to help mold Jaden Daniels. And then you get a guy that a lot of people said, all right, will that game translate to this level? And certainly it has. I think all those factors together come out to what you see with Jaden Daniels and the player that he's become. And I think this has gone, Courtney, from a cool story to, all right, maybe this guy could be a future top 10 quarterback in this league, to, if I'm in the NFC, there's no way I want to face that guy in the playoffs. I mean, he has taken this team to a position where Washington looks like a threat to pull off an upset because of everything that he's able to do and the things that you can't game plan for because he's such a unique talent.
Yeah, it's insane to think about. Like, truly, he has been sensational this year. They're the 6th seed in the NFC playoff picture. If the playoffs were to start today, they'd be heading to Los Angeles to face the Rams, the 3 seed, which I don't think anybody would be complaining about, going on the road and playing indoors in the first round of the playoffs, especially when you've got a quarterback playing like Jaden Daniels is right now. Dan Quinn, Commanders head coach, following the 30-24 win in overtime over the Atlanta Falcons, on Jaden Daniels' performance in yet another close game.
What I told Raheem after the game
I said, man, there's some things that 5 does that you can't put on a card. That's what practice is for, where there's certain moments, a route, a play. I thought the 4th downs were significant. In this game, we knew we were going to be bold. At the end, I thought, in the second half especially, there was just some strong plays. He just willed it. That's the competitor he is, and I thought he was fully able to demonstrate that and express himself tonight with his legs, with his arm. And it was hard. It was really hard. And those are things you do gain from. I'd love to say we gain a lot from the ones where there's a big score and you win ahead, but it's nights like tonight that you do gain a lot.
3 for 3 on 4th down last night. Same stat line in goal-to-go situations for the Washington Commanders. And he's right. It's the games that come down to the wire where we've learned a lot about Jaden Daniels. I mentioned that he's thrown touchdown passes in the final 30 seconds of 5 games this year. It's an NFL record. 2 of those came in losses. Of course, the furious fourth quarter back and forth that they had against the Dallas Cowboys a couple of weeks ago where Dallas wins in Washington. But he did it against the Philadelphia Eagles last week. And that was probably a gut check moment more for Philly than anything else that, you got to be playing. And yes, they were down to Kenny Pickett in that game. A couple of drop passes really hurt them in losing that game and not being able to win it on a couple field goals there at the end. But when you have a quarterback who doesn't seem fazed by anything in those moments, usually it's the experience factor of how do I lead a game-winning drive? How do I lead a fourth quarter comeback? I've got to get that experience before I'm comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
The first time he did it, he had a ribs injury. Remember against the Chicago Bears in Week 8 when we didn't even think he was going to play? We thought it was going to be Marcus Mariota, and he's scrambling around for 13 seconds, and he throws a 52-yard Hail Mary to win the game. It's insane.
Yeah.
Like, that just doesn't happen, and I go back to that moment because obviously I cover the Chicago Bears for ESPN. A moment that torpedoed one team's season seemed to galvanize the other team, and what Jaden Daniels was doing up until that point was really, really good. Remember him on Monday Night Football earlier in the year when they played the Cincinnati Bengals. He was sensational. I keep going back to that word because I don't know another one that truly grasps the magnitude of someone like Jaden Daniels and how good he's been playing in his rookie season. But it's these moments where you're taking the team to places that other quarterbacks, the revolving door that this team has had for year after year after year since their last time in the postseason, as like a legitimate postseason threat, not one of these wild card teams that just like bounces out in the first round because of you're in the byproduct of a bad NFC East. He's doing this in an NFC East that has been controlled by Philadelphia, that was just won by Philadelphia, that locked itself into the 2 seed. And now where Washington is ready to make some noise in the playoffs. Call me crazy, but I think I like my chances if you were to ask me to take the 1 seed or the field.
Yeah.
If I take Jaden Daniels and I'm taking the field, I'm feeling pretty good about my chances.
Yeah, I think every NFC defensive coordinator who watched that performance, and has just watched them all season, is saying, I don't want any part of that. Like, I don't want a game plan for whatever that is because of the confidence and the poise, because of the skill set and the balance. We'd be talking about Michael Penix Jr. Had maybe Raheem Morris called a timeout today. But Jaden Daniels continues to will this team to victory and just to have the poise of a guy who's a 10-year veteran, except this is his rookie season. I think this also puts a lot more pressure even on the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams to figure it out and to get it right. Drake May has shown his flashes, even though he may not have the best coaching staff around him. Bo Nix in the arm. We see the potential there. Michael Penix Jr. and what he's been able to do in a few games. And then obviously Jaden Daniels looking like a top 10 quarterback, top 5 quarterback maybe in the future. All of that suggests that you got to make the right decision if you're Chicago, because Washington looks really comfortable and they look like a threat in the NFC, which doesn't look like the NFC of past years where you said, okay, there's a team that's ahead of everybody. Minnesota's really, really good, but I don't think the gap between Minnesota and Washington is as wide as it has been in past years between a 1 and a 7 seed. Jaden Daniels looks dangerous with this Washington team and the way that they've rallied behind them. No NFC defensive coordinator wants to see that dude in the postseason.
Courtney Cronin, Myron Medcalf with you on Sportsmanlike, ESPN Radio, and ESPNU. On the other side of this game, Michael Penix Jr. in just his second start after the Falcons made a quarterback switch from Kirk Cousins to the rookie that they drafted 8th overall. No contest last week. He was playing the Giants. That was an easy win. to lead this team to a game-tying drive in the fourth quarter when he hits Kyle Pitts for that 13-yard touchdown. It's 24-24. And then Raheem Morris gets in this team's way because he decides to not use a timeout at the end of the fourth quarter with this team in position to kick a game-winning field goal, to win this thing, to get one step closer themselves to securing the NFC South for the postseason. It's honestly maddening. It doesn't make a whole ton of sense. I think the best thing for me to do is to let you hear from Raheem Morris himself. Here is why the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, after Michael Penix ties up the game and on their ensuing drive, does not decide to use a timeout in the fourth quarter.
Probably could have. I thought we can get to the line of scrimmage with our operation, be a little bit faster there, get them there without going on the fast and our ball, try to save that timeout. In hindsight, could have been a good decision or a better decision to take that timeout, but I wanted to have the opportunity to move up there. So, you can always second-guess those things. You can always second-guess those motives. You can always go back and look at it and see if you can get it snapped a little bit quicker. But I really believe we can get our operation time a little bit faster there to be able to save that timeout, still be able to click off, potentially get the pass interference, have a couple more snaps there, save the timeouts, and be able to use them there to get that field goal a little bit closer.
Motives and operations. Those are the buzzwords, apparently.
Was that sped up, by the way? Because that man is talking faster than any head coach I've ever heard in my career. My goodness, he's speaking fast. He's using words that I don't think he uses typically, all to explain what was clearly a mistake in that moment. Motives and operation. What is he talking about, Corey?
Yeah, I'll tell you the situation. I can't explain the rationalization there. So Atlanta gets the ball back with 40 seconds, and immediately Michael Penix Jr. to Darnell Mooney, a 25-yard first down. And then, my math might be off here, 23 seconds tick off the clock. Yeah. And I'm sure if you're a Falcons fan watching that at home, you're yelling, call a timeout. You still have a timeout. Call it. He says he's trying to save it for later, potentially within, I would assume. I mean, you have to call that timeout within before 10 seconds is off the clock. Assuming you get a little bit closer, so your kicker that you've had on the roster for about 4 minutes can kick a field goal that's closer than 57 yards. So he has an incomplete pass to Mooney again. He throws deep, and it's incomplete to Drake London. Then Atlanta calls a timeout. So then it's down to 7 seconds. So there was the neutral zone infraction on Washington. It ends up moving Atlanta back to the 49. There was the Darnell Mooney, another incomplete pass. And then, of course, they kick the 57-yard field goal. It's short. They go to overtime. When you're playing, thinking about the next down, and I get that you have to game plan these things. You have to have some sort of, plan for what happens if we do need that timeout. That's fine. It's understandable. But you still have a rookie quarterback who's not in any way, shape, or form responsible for calling that on his own or for realizing that situation. That's on the head coach. And the justification there, I appreciate at least him saying, yeah, it probably would have helped us, instead of being like, no, we love the operation the way it is. Because I've heard that too many times covering the team that I cover in the NFL. But if Atlanta doesn't make the postseason, which right now doesn't look likely because Tampa Bay can win the NFC South next week when they play the New Orleans Saints at home, that's going to be the moment that they probably look back on. Not even the Kirk Cousins stuff, not, some of the games that could have gone here or there, the Cousins interceptions that ended up leading to him being benched for Michael Penix Jr. It's the one situation where you are in line to win a game against a team that is going to the postseason right now, and your own coaching, your own game management decisions cost you in a very inopportune moment.
Yeah, aren't those the moments that define head coaches? Isn't that the job? Those specific moments, under pressure, quick decisions, pivotal decisions. That's why you're paid to do this. Yeah. And I think that's one of those things that could follow him.
My biggest takeaway, though, outside of Jaden Daniels and outside of the non-timeout call they had in the fourth quarter, I'm really impressed with Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah.
And I did not know that we would get a chance to see him this year. I didn't think that they'd pay Kirk Cousins $100 million only to bench him because all of a sudden he turned into a pumpkin and started throwing a bunch of interceptions. But if you're Atlanta, are you feeling pretty good right now? Are you feeling like, hey, at least we got the quarterback right?
Yes. They feel like they've got something to look forward to.
Mm-hmm. That's a good spot to be in, even if your team doesn't make the playoffs in 2024. If you're a team of another fan, the team in New York, maybe even both teams, you're probably not feeling the same sort of fortune that other teams that have quarterbacks are feeling. Are the Jets' problems bigger than we thought? We go out to New York next, coming up here on Unsportsmanlike, ESPN Radio and ESPN app.
This is Unsportsmanlike with Chris Canty, Evan Cohen, and Michelle Smallman. Evan Cohen.
One of us that used to play football, so it was me.
Chris Canty.
Mr. 8 interception.
Michelle Smallman.
County record. We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6759. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6759. That's 800-575-6759. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
What do we do in New Year's?
How about hula hands?
Make it a special night as you wrap up 2024 with a prefix menu with your 4-course meal. Choose from filet mignon or pan-seared red snapper, along with many other options. Make reservations now to have dinner between 5 and 10 p.m. with the last seating at 9. Walk-ins are welcome at 1902 South 1st Street. Look over your menu options at stayatthei.com/hulahands. For details, call 217-819-5005.
Are you tired of shivering in the winter? Look no further than your local heroes at ABC Heating and Air Conditioning. Hi, this is Gina inviting you to give us a call at 217-352-5400 to book your appointment to make sure your furnace is run safely and efficiently this winter. We've been proudly locally owned and operated and have been serving our community for over 50 years. ABC, always be comfortable. Call me 217-352-5400 to book your appointment today or go to abcheatingandac.com.
ACC is special
for all the traditions and new additions.
Cooper flying high.
For all the iconic.
Watch this, the corner. Watch the explosion.
And electric.
Hits another. Oh, my goodness.
Come for it all. ACC Men's College Basketball. All season long on ACCN. This is Freddie and Harry on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Jalen Hurts, man, he's so cool, calm, and collected at all times. I've never seen his demeanor change. But also, I think for the quarterback position, that's something that you want from the quarterback position. I see that sometimes when it comes to Patrick Mahomes, also Joe Burrow. These guys stay even keeled no matter what the circumstances are.
Check out more from Freddie and Harry weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Unsportsmanlike with Evan Canty and Michelle.
Unsportsmanlike on ESPN Radio and ESPNU is presented by Progressive Insurance. Courtney Cronin, Myron Metcalf sitting in for Evan Canty and Michelle on this loaded NFL Monday morning. An incredible slate of games in Week 17. At least most of them were. Can't say the same for the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets. I mean, congrats to Buffalo winning, staying undefeated at home, winning that game yesterday. And then there's the Jets. And this is a 4-win Jets team where it feels like it gets worse and worse every week. This is a team that I'm sure these players are going into Week 18 crashing and burning into the finish line, and all the uncertainty about next year and who the quarterback's going to be, the direction of this franchise. You don't leave this year feeling very optimistic if you're a Jets fan. And it seems to get worse when we're hearing reports about there being maybe some players who don't want to be back if a quarterback named Aaron Rodgers is under center for the Jets next year. One of those players would be Garrett Wilson, star wide receiver at 24 years old. Yes, he hasn't had a great year in his own right in 2024, but could be a franchise player for you, was a first-round draft pick, so on and so forth. The losses keep getting embarrassing, though. And I think, Myron, at this point, these players are not just fed up with it, but it's like you're almost checked out to the point. I mean, you can look at Aaron Rodgers' body language, seeing how he was, just like how he looked on the field yesterday when things were not going well. It's like the end of the season can't get here fast enough, but you're almost in a worse position at the end of this year because you really have no direction, no clear direction on where this thing is headed in 2025.
Imagine being with that mess of a franchise right now, and then your quarterback who's not giving 100% is like, hey, did y'all see my Netflix series? You know what I mean? Like, it's just got to be such a weird vibe in that entire organization right now. And to your point, what I think you've seen from, Tampa Bay and Detroit and Minnesota, there's value at quarterback throughout this league. There are other guys that you can get where you don't have to pay $40-50 million for, and you can still take the next step for an organization. If they invest in Aaron Rodgers, they get whatever they deserve. They get it all, If you're going to stick with Aaron Rodgers, well, then that's just on you because it would come at the expense of maybe the future of the organization. I just don't see why anyone would stick with Aaron Rodgers, even if Sauce Gardner wasn't leaving weird comments on other people's posts about don't come to New York or whatever he said to T. Higgins and the Garrett Wilson reports. You would have to assume that no one's having a good time with Aaron Rodgers as the leader. And even Woody Johnson and all the mistakes the Jets owner has made has to see how obvious it is that he's not the right guy to take them into the next years.
So Sauce Gardner, what Myron's referring to is this post on Instagram. Yeah. This was T. Higgins. It was a picture of a Bengals helmet. I think this was probably this was yesterday.
Yeah.
So Sauce comments on it, pay the man. Some person named SOS Breland was responding to Sauce Gardner, said, tell him to come to the Jets. Yeah. Sauce said, I will not be telling him that in all caps. So obviously morale seems super high in New York right now. And, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's getting any better, especially after the blowout loss to the Buffalo Bills in a divisional matchup yesterday. Let's hear from Sauce Gardner, Jets cornerback, on just the overall magnitude of another loss for the Jets.
Embarrassing to look up there and see 40-0 in the fourth quarter.
What? Embarrassing? I don't even know if that's the word. Because what was the score the first time we played them?
First time it was 23-20.
Exactly. You telling me now it's 40-0? Like, if you ask me, that means like it's the end of the season. Obviously, we're not going to playoffs. Some people might be checked out. That's just me going off speculation of what I'm getting at. You know what I'm saying? We beat them my rookie year, right? We beat them before, and it's like they had last year too. They had a similar roster, and we quote unquote enhanced our roster in all areas. So that just tells me, like, I don't know, bro. It's not feeling. We can't be playing as a team. We probably just individuals, because I know last year and the year before, we had a roster that wasn't as talented as this roster, but we found ways to beat the Bills, found ways to win. So we're stopping that now with a more talented roster.
Some pretty telling comments from the second-year Jets cornerback, and the only thing I'll disagree with him and what he said was he's like, I'm just referring to speculation. No, sir, that's stuff that you see in your locker room every single day.
Why was he talking like he's not on the team? Like, they were like, what do you think about this loss? He was like, what? 40-0? Sauce, you were there. You were on the field when this was happening. But maybe you get to a point, Courtney, where you got to just pretend like you're not a part of it and remove yourself from the whole situation, because what a mess.
Yeah, I believe we call that the dissociation tactic. We use that in the therapy world when you don't want to be a part of something. You want to leave your body so you don't have to witness.
He said speculation like he's not in the locker room. No, it's your team, bro. You know what it is. Come on.
It was 40-0 until Tyrod Taylor was in the game late in the fourth quarter. Aaron Rodgers gets pulled because the game's out of hand. Tyrod scores 2 touchdowns. Good for him, I guess, and then all of this. But not good for the state of the Jets, because there was a report that came out yesterday that Garrett Wilson if this thing continues on the trajectory it's on, remember, they're going to be in a coaching search and a general manager search in the not too distant future. And it was actually Rex Ryan earlier today was on our affiliate in ESPN New York and told the host that he does plan on like being in touch with them about their head coaching opening. Wow. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
But it's unlikely that this thing's going to play out very well or very seamlessly considering the situation that the Jets are in right now. Also unlikely that the Jets bring back quarterback Aaron Rodgers for another year. He's poking at Woody Johnson on his weekly appearances on the Pat McAfee show. He's made a lot of comments about the direction of the franchise, how unhappy he is. But there's another reason why they shouldn't bring him back, because the report that I'm referring to speculates. It's actually the proper use of speculation because it's coming from outside the Jets locker room. That Garrett Wilson, their star receiver, who's 24 years old, might not want to be there if Rodgers returns. Yeah. Like, you can't blame him for that by any stretch. But can you imagine a world where the New York Jets decide to side with a soon-to-be 42-year-old quarterback over a 24-year-old potential franchise-altering receiver who, if you get him a quarterback, can actually live up to his first-round pick status?
Yeah, the Jets would. Yeah, I mean, if anyone would do it, it's the Jets. Like, could any other organization do it? Would they? No. But the Jets, yeah. Like, I don't put anything past them. Clearly, there are issues in that locker room. And what I love, Courtney, is if they move on from Rodgers, it's going to be incredible, the reports that come out of that locker room when everyone feels free to say what actually was going on. But yeah, I mean, the Jets, if any group would do it, it's them. I don't know why you would invest in Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson and all the other moves you made if you were going to be loyal to Aaron Rodgers. It's clear that it's time to move on from him, not even just as a quarterback, as a leader, as just a weird dude who has just, kind of a weird vibe in that locker room. They got to do something, man. If you have players like Sauce Gardner who are saying, listen, man, I'm not telling you I heard this, but people are saying, you got some issues in that locker room. Courtney, they're right next to him. Like, his teammates are right there as he's talking, and he's disassociating from all this.
I love how he answered that just because it is so comical. But I feel for guys like that because this was supposed to be the season where they fulfilled all of those promises. We're going to be doing a case study on this in 10 to 20 years. I can't wait for the 30 for 30, but also you don't put all your eggs in the basket of the guy who is that age, of course, that takes up that many resources and has that much say and power. Like, I saw Devontae Adams catch a pass yesterday. Like, I speak of it in very, layman's terms. Yeah. Literally caught a pass. I'm like, how'd that work out for you? On you went from one 4-win team to another 4-win team because you're BFF with the quarterback who can pull a lot of strings. If the Jets know what's good for them, they will not be siding with one player who has that much control and giving that much control to the next quarterback, whoever that is, in 2025. All right, straight ahead. Cam Ward quit halfway through the Pop-Tarts Bowl on Saturday. Is this a concern? Are we overblowing this? Do NFL teams really care? Heather Dinich, our ESPN college football insider, joins the show next on Sportsmanlike ESPN Radio and ESPNU.
It's bowl season on ESPN Radio. 25 bowl games, including the college football playoff and national championship game.
The magic continues.
The electricity, the atmosphere. Bowl season continues today with the TransPerfect Music City Bowl. Coverage begins at 2 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN.
Texting enrolls you into reoccurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T?
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text BIKE to 321-321 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast. Absolutely free. Text BIKE to 321-321. That's BIKE to 321-321.
Urbana Park District with a new website, urbanaparks.org, with a fantastic new look, including an ADA accessibility program so more people can navigate the website. There's translation services. Just press a button and read the website in a foreign language. Want to register for an Urbana Park District class or program online? It's easier to use. Urbana Park District, you belong here. Check out the new website, urbanaparks.org.
Illinois basketball star Morez Johnson on managing partner at Sarah Champagne, Ben Quattrone.
Ben Quattrone is a great guy. He's like an uncle to me now, a great character person. Sarah Champagne is like a family. Talk to the people that work here sometimes, just to talk to them, and they helped me when I got my car deal. It was very helpful. It wasn't like I was like here all day, like I was bonding with people, have a conversation with them. They're there. Oh, I love my car.
Learn more at sarahchampagne.com. That's SERRA champagne.com. Kelsey Furniture in downtown Tuscola sells Tempur-Pedic beds. What's it like?
I'm going to tell you right now, Stevie, that thing is the best thing I've ever slept on in my life. My wife and I both have said we've never had better night's sleep. And the people at Kelsey's were fantastic. Brian is the guy that helped us. You know, as much as I did my research, he has a world of knowledge about beds themselves. Oh, man, it's like sleeping on a cloud, man.
Kelsey Furniture, downtown Tuscola.
Season's greetings. This is Janelle Adams from Prospect Bank. Sometimes the perfect gift is simply sharing a smile, and donations don't always have to be grand gestures. These small tokens show appreciation and will bring a world of happiness to a stranger. Remembering those who are less fortunate during this time of year could be the perfect encouragement needed to support your local food pantry and other civic organizations. Happy holidays from all of us at Prospect Bank. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Adam Schefter here with Vivid Seats. We've got some late-breaking news coming out of the stands. According to multiple sources, Vivid Seats fans are scoring rewards on every purchase and at a rapid pace. Obviously, these rewards are a game changer, and coupled with their MVP-worthy ticket selection, why get tickets anywhere else? Don't drop the ball this season. Shop with Vivid Seats and earn rewards on every ticket. And as the official ticketing partner of ESPN, Vivid Seats is offering you $20 off your first $200 ticket purchase with code Schefter. That's code Schefter.
Hey, I'm Brett Podolsky, co-founder of The Farmer's Dog. We make fresh food for dogs. We started the company when we saw what a huge difference it made in my own dog, Jada, when she stopped eating ultra-processed kibble and started eating fresh, whole food. The Farmer's Dog food isn't fancy. It's just real food delivered to your door in pre-portioned packs. It's better for them and easier for you.
Get 50% off your first box at thefarmersdog.com/trial50. That's thefarmersdog.com/trial50.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6759. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 five-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6759. That's 800-575-6759. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Unsportsmanlike with Evan Canty and Michelle.
Bowl game mania continues throughout the week. It's that strange time between December 23rd and January 2nd where time is a construct. It doesn't actually exist. And I typically tell the time of the day, or at least what I think is morning, noon, and night, based on how many bowl games are on my TV. It's Unsportsmanlike, ESPN Radio, and the ESPN app. Courtney Cronin, Myron Medcalf, pleased to welcome in our good friend Heather Dinich, who is here with us thanks to the Home Depot. Help cover all your home safety gaps with Kidda smoke alarms from the Home Depot. Heather Dinich, ESPN college football reporter. Let's talk about the Pop-Tarts Bowl because I can't get enough of it. But I can get enough of the Cam Ward is a quitter, is a bad teammate sort of conversation. He hits the record, Heather, in the first half for passing touchdowns, all-time passing touchdowns in college football, breaks the record set by Case Keenum. And then in the second half, it's not him on this field. It's Emory Williams, who is a sophomore quarterback for the Miami Hurricanes. The Canes end up losing that game by 1 point. And the conversation isn't about the great season that they had, but rather the quarterback and his decision to not play in the second half. What is the conversation in college football circles today about Cam Ward and what happened in this Pop-Tarts Bowl?
I'm out here in the desert in Scottsdale at the Fiesta Bowl, and people are talking about it out here. And people are like, well, you can't get hurt in the first half? I think it's more about the setup of it, right? People just don't understand it. Like, player don't, right? I think that's sort of the question around it. And then, Penn State coach James Franklin was asked at his press conference yesterday how to incentivize players to stay, and the question was referencing that as part of it, but also obviously Penn State's backup quarterback Bo Pribula entering the transfer portal, so they're out here without him. And it led to a greater answer by Franklin, who went on a tangent about the overhaul that college football needs, and he nominated Nick Saban as the commissioner of the sport. So it's another piece of the puzzle that is college football that coaches and athletic directors and commissioners are trying to solve right now. And Franklin offered up some suggestions, and he talked about eliminating conference championship games to shorten the season. He talked about having a commissioner of the sport. Sark the other day at Texas for his CFP press conference was talking about a more of an NFL model and getting rid of spring football, going to 8 OTAs or mini camps. So there are a lot of ideas being thrown out there, but no real solutions yet. But I think the calendar is one of the biggest things on the table because of what we're talking about with players opting out, with players not playing full games, all of those things, contracts, NIL, agents. It's all just a big snowball of an issue.
Heather, there was a lot of buzz about some of the blowouts in the first round. What's more likely, a different seeding system in the college football in the years ahead or an expanded playoff?
How about a combination of the two?
Ooh.
I mean, the seeding thing is a real conversation right now. But what people have to remember is that in order for that to change next season, it has to be unanimously agreed upon of all the FBS commissioners, presidents and chancellors who control the playoff, and there's some serious doubt amongst the powers that be that I've been speaking to both publicly and privately that they could agree on that, especially when you have a team like Boise State not only guaranteed a spot, but a first-round bye as the number 3 seed in this current system. So whether or not that changes next year, knowing that in 2026, when really the new contract begins and the playoff is probably trending towards expanding to 14 teams, do you dink and dunk and tweak for next season, knowing a greater change will come the following year, or do you focus all your efforts on 2026 and making that right? And if I had to answer that question right this second, I would say there's probably a greater chance we see the exact same thing next year and then they get it right the following year. But if they do tweak anything for next season, I would expect it to be the seeding.
ESPN college football reporter Heather Dinich joining us here on Unsportsmanlike, ESPN Radio and ESPNU. So there's been a lot of news that doesn't really have to deal with the games just yet. Of course, the CFP quarterfinal round kicks off with the game that you're at on Tuesday, the 31st. That's Penn State, Boise State in the Verbo Fiesta Bowl out in the desert. James Franklin brought up something that I know a lot of people have touched on. It's the idea that college football needs a commissioner, needs somebody to guide the sport away from the NCAA to maybe one day kind of break off and do its own thing and follow that NFL model with Roger Goodell being the commissioner for the NFL. Can you tell us the name and tell us whether you agree with who James Franklin was suggesting would be the right commissioner for college football?
He did suggest Nick Saban, and it does make sense. And he's not the first one. I didn't even realize this until one of our news editors told me, but Lane Kiffin also tweeted this out and suggested the same thing. And you know what? I spoke to an administrator who said that's a good idea from the coach's perspective, but you also need an administrative perspective. And that person threw out the name former Ohio State athletic director Gene Smith. And it's funny he mentioned that name because here in Phoenix a couple of years ago at the spring meetings, I stood at the Hyatt Gainey Ranch Resort where they have their spring meetings with Gene Smith, and he told me he thinks college football needs a commissioner. So this is an idea that has been talked about for a long time. That was also the meeting that Gene Smith told me he thought college football should separate from every other sport. And Boise State athletic director Jeremiah Dickey told me the exact same thing yesterday. He told me he thinks that that is inevitable. But, Courtney, the reality of this is that I don't think that's going to happen, that college football is going to get its own commissioner. Because in order for that to happen, the current commissioners have to relinquish some power. And I just don't see that happening, particularly in the Big Ten with Tony Petitti and the SEC with Greg Sankey, because in the palm of their hand, they hold all of the power.
Heather, at this stage, the playoff feels a bit like the Big Ten SEC Invitational, with a few other teams involved there. What are the chances that an Arizona State pulls off an upset in this field?
Well, I would be surprised, as probably most people would, my friend. But listen, this is why they play the game. No one picked Northern Illinois to beat Notre Dame on their home field either, did they?
Yeah, true.
I mean, that's what's so fun about college football is no one knows. And with teams having time off, with, the different schedule that this college football playoff presents, is one team at an advantage and another team's not? I don't know the answer to that, and either do they. And, was Penn State a little bit rusty in the first quarter when they came out against SMU? Probably. Does that mean Boise State, which had an even bigger layoff, is going to be even slower to start, which they can't afford against Penn State? I don't know. Or, you know what? Someone told me yesterday that Ashton Genty feels the best he's felt in weeks because he's had time off. So all of these little factors play into it, and you just don't know how these things are going to play out on the field. But the reality is I would be surprised.
Heather Dinich, ESPN college football reporter, joining us on Unsportsmanlike. The rest versus rust element here, I think, comes into play for a couple of these teams. Obviously, Arizona State got one of those first-round byes. Oregon, Georgia, and Boise did as well. So this is a good opportunity for Ashton Genty on rest to show all of us that the committee got it, or rather the voters got it wrong for the Heisman. But, some of the other teams dealing with injuries. Georgia's not going to have Carson Beck. They're turning the reins of that offense over to Gunnar Stockton. Of course, we haven't seen Oregon since the Big Ten championship game. Is there any team you think that rust would factor in more than others, and that this time off of getting the first round bye might not actually be a good thing based on who they're playing in the quarterfinal round, or even their own injury luck, so to speak?
Honestly, maybe Arizona State, like we talked about. But Boise State, to me, is I'm so curious about this game. And I know with Notre Dame, Georgia, and Ohio State, Oregon, it's not at the top of the list as far as matchups, but it should be, I feel like, because I do think they have a chance. But when you look at Penn State's defensive front, which is so good, and their run defense has been so good, and their running backs, and these guys they're on a roll, right? How much of that plays into this game and having that routine and just, on to the next one type mentality. But these Boise State guys, man, they are just embracing the us against the world mentality. Count us out T-shirts, please count us out. So they are coming in here with something to prove, not just for their own program, but for all group of 5 teams. I talked to a lot of them about that yesterday.
All right, we will be seeing you tomorrow. That is when the quarterfinals kick off with the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. It is Boise State and Penn State, 7:30 p.m. over on ESPN. Then, of course, January 1st, New Year's Day, the CFP quarterfinals continue with the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, the Rose Bowl game presented by Prudential, and the All-State Sugar Bowl. Wish that one was a little bit earlier in the night because that 8:45 p.m. kickoff is not kind to those of us who have to host morning radio the day after. Heather, we appreciate it. Thank you so much for the time, as always.
You bet, guys. Enjoy the games. Thanks.
I say that complaining as she just woke up on Pacific time to join us here. That was very kind of our good friend Heather Dinich, ESPN college football reporter, helping get us ready for the CFP semifinals. The commissioner thing is still wild to me.
Yeah.
Like, everything is going towards the NFLization model. How can that not be next? And I know conference commissioners, like she was mentioning, with Tony Petitti, Greg Sankey, some of the Power Four conference commissioners, I don't think would take too kindly to that. But if college football isn't eventually going to break off and do its own thing, like, I don't see it happening where everything stays under the same roof anymore, and they will need a leader and a voice to guide them in that direction.
Yeah, we're headed that way in college sports for sure.
All right, straight ahead. How should the Detroit Lions approach tonight ahead of their monster showdown with the Minnesota Vikings next Sunday night, where the number 1 seed will be up for grabs? That's coming up next on Sportsmanlike, ESPN Radio and ESPNU.
Georgia versus Notre Dame.
There's a different feel to the playoff.
Boise State versus Penn State.
There's an intensity that gets ratcheted up.
Oregon versus Ohio State.
The stakes get much higher.
Arizona State versus Texas. The college football playoff quarterfinals. New Year's Eve and New Year's Day on ESPN Radio and on ESPN. This is Freddie and Harry on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
I believe it's Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes and then Joe Montana. Patrick Mahomes is the most gifted quarterback that we've ever seen in the game. He really is. Okay. And I don't believe it's going to take 5 or 6 or 7 Super Bowls for him to eclipse Brady.
Check out more from Freddie and Harry weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Amber and Ian.
Dan Lanning, head coach of the Ducks, here with us on ESPN Radio. Oregon is undefeated. They're number 1, yet they get the winner of Ohio State, Tennessee. People are saying that that's a flaw in this system. How do you feel?
What an opportunity, man. We get a chance to go play some of the best teams in the nation, and it's not supposed to be easy to get to a national championship, but that's the furthest thing from my mind right now. Like, I'm focused on what's next for us.
Amber and Ian, weeknights at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio.
ABC Hockey Weekend is back.
There's going to be stars everywhere on the ice.
Saturday, the Rangers.
Artemi Panarin is a game changer.
Visit the Capitals.
This is the best goal scorer the game has ever seen.
Then, Sunday, the Blue Shirts conclude their road trip in Chicago. That's hockey. ABC Hockey Weekend presented by Expedia. Rangers Capitals Saturday at noon Eastern. Then Rangers Blackhawks Sunday at 3 Eastern on ABC and ESPN Plus.
I'm Michelle Steele hosting ESPN Daily this week. Every weekday morning, we bring you the best sports story you'll hear all day. Today on ESPN Daily, we're revisiting one of the biggest stories of the year via our 5-part series, Death of a Sports Town. In episode 3, we set aside all the drama between owners and executives and politicians and put the focus where it belongs, on the fans in Oakland who will soon be left behind. That's ESPN Daily. Follow us and listen wherever you get good podcasts.
It's bowl season on ESPN Radio. 25 bowl games, including the college football playoff and national championship game.
Touchdown! The electricity, the atmosphere. This is why you do what you do.
Bowl season continues today with the TransPerfect Music City Bowl. Coverage begins at 2 Eastern on ESPN Radio and ESPN.
It's the beauty of college football.
How are you? My name's Scott Van Pelt, host of SC Pod, along with my partner in crime, Stanford Steve. What do we talk about mostly on the podcast, Steve?
Sports.
Some.
Parenting?
I feel like that comes up a lot. I feel like most recently I've needed some help because I feel like my shortcomings there are evident. It's life stuff, relatable content.
It's fun.
It's just two bald-headed goons just talking about nonsense a lot in a crowded podcast space. There's that one.
We're here.
Here we are.
Featuring Canty and Michelle are unsportsmanlike.
Week 17 closing out tonight, Monday Night Football. The Lions on the road playing the San Francisco 49ers. One step closer to locking up the number 1 seed, but they're going to have to wrestle it back from the Minnesota Vikings in Week 18. It's Unsportsmanlike on ESPN Radio and ESPNU. This show, as always, presented by Progressive Insurance. Courtney Cronin, Myron Metcalf here with the Monday Night Football preview brought to you by Progressive Insurance. So, the last time we saw the Lions, Myron, they were in Chicago. It was a 17-point game, nothing in question, but a team that showed you, or at least was trying to prove, yes, we just lost David Montgomery. Yes, we have 21 players total. I'm laughing only because of the absurdity of the fact they've got 21 guys on injured reserve right now. But it was a statement win against a listless team. Not saying the San Francisco 49ers are listless, because even though they've been mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, they haven't looked as bad as some of the bad teams that Detroit has been able to beat up on. Tonight they go out there and they need to win this one because of the tiebreaker scenario that could come into play because the Vikings beat the 49ers earlier this year. They keep that hope, if you're Detroit, you keep that hope alive, you're still in line for the 1 seed, because last night they fell from 1 to 5, which is just wild to think about. They need to play indoors. They need that first round bye for injury. You think they're going to come out tight, or you think they're going to come out ready to make another statement 1 week after they did it, after losing David Montgomery?
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of playing under Dan Campbell. I don't think you can come out tight. I don't think Dan Campbell, from when he was hired to today, changes the stakes of any game. I think that's the benefit of this Lions franchise and who they've been under him. I think every game for him is a big-time game, and there's a sense of urgency, and I think that's the culture of this franchise. So I don't think they'll have a letdown. I think they know the seriousness of it. A 1 seed to a 5, Courtney, that changes everything for a playoff team, and I think they'll approach this game that way.
Yeah, I will watch tonight. I'm excited about it. I'm excited. I really hope they win because I want to see this game in Week 18 matter and be the biggest Lions-Vikings showdown that we've maybe ever seen, because it's Sunday Night Football. It's the last game of the regular season. It's going to determine, for two teams that have already locked themselves into the postseason, where they're going to be playing. And there's really not much movement that can happen because the Eagles are locked into the 2 seed right now. So it's 1 and 5 effectively are the ones up for grabs. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have to win next week in order to lock up the NFC South. So they're very likely in there as the 4. And then the other automatic qualifier would be the NFC West champion, which that's all but the Rams right now. But certainly some wiggle room there between, a pretty stark difference between the 1 seed and the 5 seed, and then Washington and the Green Bay Packers seem like they're probably in the positions that they are right now and going to stay there at 6 and 7 respectively. Progressive makes bundling easy and affordable. Get a multi-policy discount by combining your motorcycle, RV, boat, ATV, and more. All your protection in one place. Bundle and save at Progressive.com. That is our Monday Night Football preview brought to you by Progressive. All right, 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. We were asking you on the Dr. Pepper call-in line about the idea that the MVP race might not be decided just yet. Certainly in Week 17, we saw a handful of performances, whether it was Josh Allen in the beatdown that the Buffalo Bills put on the New York Jets, what Lamar Jackson did on Christmas Day, becoming the all-time rushing record leader at the quarterback position, and then what Joe Burrow did on Saturday. Now, I've seen some pushback on my social media, on all of my social media channels, on Instagram and on Twitter, my handle at Courtney R. Cronin. People aren't really happy with my take, Myron, on Joe Burrow maybe earning this award, or at least earning the right to be in the conversation and earn someone's vote, based on the fact that if the Cincinnati Bengals get into the playoffs after the way that they've started, given how well Joe Burrow's played, leading the league right now in passing touchdowns, passing yards, yards per game, and a bunch of other categories, if that's not the case of a true MVP, I really don't know what is.
Yeah, no, it's fair. And I think the people who are backing Joe Burrow, that's a valid case, right? Considering the numbers he's put up, how well he's playing. I mean, for Joe Burrow, who's been to a Super Bowl, to be playing the best football of his career, that says something. But I also think the people who are saying, listen, Saquon Barkley has hit 2,000 yards in 16 games. Lamar Jackson is playing some of the best football of his entire career. And Josh Allen, who lost so many key pieces on offense and defense, is doing it with a lot of sort of anonymous guys. You got to give him credit in that race, too. So I don't know that there's a wrong answer, Courtney, among those four candidates.
Bobby in Georgia, the Dr. Pepper call-in line is open. 888-SAY-ESPN. Where do you lie on the MVP race?
Oh, good morning. Great show. You guys are great backups. I'd consider you guys in the running. You guys created a controversy at the host position instead of the quarterback controversy. You guys are doing great. With that said, I'd like to make two quick points. One is in an era, you guys touched on it, but you touched around it. Saquon Barkley should be considered number one in contention for this reason, even though it is an opinion poll. Not only is getting 2,000 yards in a season rare, 9 times, but he's got 2,000 yards in a season where it's pass first. Pass, it's favored toward the pass. So for him to do that, and that compounds the fact that he is that good, and he is MVP, and what he has done for compare the Eagles this year at this time of year, this season, as he did last season, the impact that he has made. So there's a good argument there. Another point I would like to make on MVP is the NFL needs to change this. The Major League Baseball did it right. They got the Cy Young Award. Now, you can win the Cy Young Award and the MVP, but I think they need to have a separate award for the best quarterback in the league.
That's fair.
But no, Bobby, that's a great
really
point.
good point.
Sorry to cut you off there. We're up against it. But it's like the Offensive Player of the Year is one thing. There should be a quarterback award that maybe is that, and then the MVP should be opened up to positions other than quarterback. Because Saquon Barkley, if you're looking at it in any other year, would certainly qualify. And there's always receivers that are thrown into that mix as well. We got to get out of here. Q Myers, Gabe Neitzel holding it down on Greeny. Coming up next, ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code BUY to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code BUY for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code BUY for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
Illinois basketball season is underway. Single game tickets to see your Fighting Illini at State Farm Center are on sale now at fightingillini.com. Great seats are still available. Lock in your tickets for big games against Big Ten opponents before they're gone. Don't miss your chance to see the winningest team in the Big Ten Conference over the last 5 years. Be part of the atmosphere and get tickets at fightingillini.com.
Our showroom renovation is complete. At the new Flooring Surfaces, you'll enjoy a modern shopping experience in a showroom filled with the latest innovations in floor covering, plus custom blinds, shades, and shutters in an expanded window treatment area. Flooring Surfaces can help you with free design assistance, expert advice, and professional installation, all in a brand new space you have to see to believe. Visit Flooring Surfaces today at 401 Mercury Drive in Champaign.
Flooring Surfaces, your first stop.
What are we doing New Year's?
How about hula hands?
Make it a special night as you wrap up 2024 with a prefix menu with your 4-course meal. Choose from filet mignon or pan-seared red snapper, along with many other options. Make reservations now to have dinner between 5 and 10 p.m. with the last seating at 9. Walk-ins are welcome at 1902 South 1st Street. Look over your menu options at stayatthei.com/hulahands. For details, call 217-819-5005.
Hello, my name is Amber Oberheim, and I am a family nurse practitioner at OSF Healthcare in Monticello. The United States appears to be on track to experience a typical respiratory virus season this year. The CDC is predicting that combined peak hospitalizations from COVID-19, influenza, and RSV this fall and winter will be similar to or lower than last year. The best way that you can protect yourself from the flu is to make sure that you get vaccinated every year. All Americans ages 6 months and older are recommended to get a flu shot. Younger children and older adults are most at risk of serious illness from the flu. Another effective way to prevent respiratory illness is to make sure that you have excellent hand washing. If you do start feeling ill, I recommend that you stay home to prevent infecting others and reach out to your healthcare provider to get tested. COVID-19 and the flu can present similarly, and it's important to make sure that you have the right treatment options available. At OSF Healthcare, we're doing even more to help you be the healthiest you. Learn more at osfhealthcare.org.
PDR Automotive has now been serving the Champaign-Urbana area for over 50 years. To give you some perspective, 50 years ago ended the U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War, and it was when Secretariat won the Triple Crown. So what does that mean for you and your vehicle? Whether you need a carburetor overhauled or your new vehicle computer system diagnosed or programmed, PDR Automotive has the experienced, knowledgeable staff that can handle all your automotive needs. Online at pdrauto.com, they are what's best for your truck or car. They are PDR.
In 1925, a small plumbing company began its journey in Urbana, Illinois. Over the decades, the business grew thanks to hard work and great people.